Parents who have checked their child's internet history. What is the weirdest or most fricked up thing you found on it? My friend's kid searched on cows pooping and apparently watched many YouTube videos of cows pooping. I heard my son saying to Siri, "Siri, show me videos of hippos pooping." A minute later I hear dubstep coming from the iPad. Siri had given him a video of hippos pooping set to dubstep. My daughter is only 7 years old, so nothing so far, but about 10 years ago I was using my EXS little brother's laptop for a few days, checked his search history and found a few weird things. He must have only been around 15 at the time. There were Google searches for naked truth or dare and rubber dong under the age of 8 inches. Needless to say I promptly turned the laptop off and never spoke of it again. Stepdaughter was into Ninja Turtles for a while. She would read fanfiction and roleplay with some random people. She would pretend to be pregnant with turtle babies, triplets, and another time she was one of the Ninja Turtles having gay intercourse with another turtle. A direct quote was, "I rub my dong on your dong and moan lightly." There are some things you do not need to find. Not a parent story, but close enough. Used to be the IT department for a kinda through 5th grade school. Once we actually received a budget to purchase laptops for the classrooms. I was tasked with imaging them all, and also implementing a web content filter, which we hadn't had previously, since it was before students had computer access. Well, I wanted to make sure my filter was working well, so naturally, I test it. My go-to site is always boobs.com, because it's relatively benign, or it was. Haven't checked it in 10 years, and it should always trigger a filter. It gets blocked. Filter works. Life is good. I deliver laptops to the classrooms and go about my job as usual. A few months later, a teacher comes ripping down into my office holding a laptop, breathlessly yelling, "We have a problem. The kids are systematically trying to bypass the filter." I'm like, whoa. How do you know? I've checked 10 machines now, and every one of them has boobs.com in the search history. As soon as she said it, I realized my mistake. I used the first laptop to check the filter, which happened to be the laptop I used to create the donor image that I then cloned onto every other laptop in the school. I successfully put boobs.com as the only address in the search history on every school computer. You're welcome, parents. My kids have an old Android phone of mine that we let them play games on. My son is 4 and managed to figure out how to use the Google voice search. He went and hid in his room and searched for YouTube videos on how to grow up. The fact that his internet history is clear. My son looked up screaming fricking bee. He was 11 at the time. Not ordinary fricking bee, the screaming kind. I received my first computer when I was 15. Before that, my only interaction with the internet was when I visited my older, married sister during the summer. My first experience with the internet was when I was 12. I visited my sister and she left me alone in the house for the day while she and my bill worked. My parents did that all the time. It was cool. That night when he got home, my bill sat me down. He had a little smirk on his face. He thought he caught me red-handed. "Did you know my computer keeps a record of the websites you visit? Number." I didn't. He proceeds to pull up his internet history and sees 9 hours of activity of animorphs, searching for animorph websites, posting in animorph forums, reading about animorphs, reading animorph fanfiction, looking at animorph fan art, just animorphs. My guess is he expected me to look up P, and instead of telling me not to do it ahead of time, he thought it was fair and reasonable to bust my balls after the fact and humiliate me. But frick that douchebag. Animorphs is where it's at. This is about my mom and my brother, who was 14 at the time. My brother was just discovering internet P and would get up really early in the morning to look at it. My mom caught on after a virus was downloaded and she started looking up the history. One morning my brother looks at a website with an address like jugs.com or something, but he spells it wrong and it takes him to a sport website. When my mom gets up, she looks at the history, sees it, and at breakfast she looks at him. "If you wanted P, you should have spelled it with 2 Gs. His face was priceless. Not me, but my boss told me a story of his 8-year-old son's YouTube history. Apparently he would take the iPad and just watch videos of Asian children crying for hours on end. My 10-year-old googled sexy vagina. His spelling is atrocious. A friend's younger brother was starting to get to that age, I think 11 or so. Their family computer kept getting infected with viruses and whatnot. Parents wouldn't do much about it until they found how big is a vagina in the Google search and they decided to sit him down for a little sex ed. Cracks me up every time. I deleted my dad's pee history and he was mad. It was the early 2000s and he had a subscription to Reality Kings. Is it weird I jacked off to the same pee my dad did? I searched boob when I was younger on the family computer and we were all called over to figure out which one of me and my siblings did it. My older brother got the blame as he was the only boy. Sorry bro, it was me. Just the one. Not my kids, but when I was in high school my best friend and I went through his little brother's computer. To my amazement, in a week he had gone from simple boobs searches on Google to finding hardcore bestiality. And there wasn't just one site, there were several over 2 days. We clicked on the first one and both of us started to gag and didn't check any others out. We decided not to throw him under the bus to his parents, but as we all played Halo after we kept making analogies for anything negative that happened to animal pee. We were dying by the end of it, and little bro just laughed uncomfortably. Never found it on his comp again, but he may have just cleared his history from then on. When I was 13 and my youngest brother was about 8 or so, I found his iPod Touch and decided to check his Google search history in Safari. It read as such: guns, Call of Duty, P, just the word P, no context or modifiers. Those were also the only entries. He's a simple man with simple pleasures. America. My son was looking for nice racks. When confronted, he pointed out we told him he could decorate his room and he was looking for shelving. 10/10 for creativity on the spot. My dad caught me looking up Donk Up to Pirate. Well, I'm sure my dad was disappointed by bigtitsroundases.com, judging by the fact that he couldn't look at me when he told me not to go to those sites. 5-year-old looked up on YouTube when I wasn't around for Fidgener videos and Pepe videos, and he didn't mean rare peeps. My parents used to catch me googling for gangbangs. Funny times. You make it sound like it happened a lot. Not parent but cousin. Little cousin had tab open called How to Get Revenge. My mom used to give me crap for finding my search history that of course had pee in it. This was late 90s early 2000s. The problem was my mom is actually, and still is, bad with computers. She knows enough to do her job at work and that's about where that knowledge ends. So one night she comes to my room to berate me for looking at pee and threatens to install parental control software, and in a move only a smartest teenager would think is brilliant said, "Are you going to have me install it too?" My parents are divorced, so she immediately phoned my dad and complained to him about how I'm out of control. She eventually hands the phone to me and my dad says, "Son, that was funny as heck, but don't talk back to your mother. And don't be so obvious about your pee habits." When my son was about 8, he'd been searching for vagina and clearly come across some websites that told him had been blocked due to content filtering. That was the point at which he went searching for unblocked vagina. It still worries me what horrors that search bore. Well, this happened to me, but my dad when I was younger saw 60-year-old dong in my search bar and was completely shocked. Still super embarrassing to think about. My son is 16 now, so this was about 4 years ago. I had got a new tablet and he had gotten in the habit of taking it into his room to play games on. I got curious one day and looked at the search history. Pokemon cheat code, Halo map, big boobies, dong suck, Minecraft. It was such an odd mix I had to laugh. I bookmarked some sites that he could look at that weren't hardcore P, SI swimsuit site, etc. I let him know he could look at these and it was okay. The last few years he's had his own laptop and I really don't even bother anymore. Trying to control a teenage boy's masturbatory habits is the definition of fighting a losing battle. I think I'm adopted. How can I tell? My parents, if they had looked through my history, would have found a bunch on medieval torture methods. I was 9. I looked at the internet history on the home computer to find how to fist people. I confronted my son about it and he told me that somebody upset him at school and he wanted to fist him. He got suspended from school the next day for fisting a kid in the face. I laughed continuously for the next 10 minutes thereafter. Little brother downloaded a game called Mike's Hardcore Anal Adventure. When I was around 12 I would look up 12-year-old girls naked pee. Surprised we never got a visit from the government, although this probably put me on a list. My kid looked up Ruth Ginsburg naked, Clinton naked, Hillary Clinton naked, followed by SpongeBob, lyrics Life on Mars, ending with Condoleezza Rice naked. Needless to say there was no more internet for her. Still trying to figure out why she wanted to see those people of all people naked. But we can't talk about that. Too weird. I caught my 8-year-old brother looking up. Naked 8-year-old. Naked 8-year-old with boobs. Naked 8-year-old pretty. And, my personal favorite, naked 8-year-old ugly. He's 10 now and doesn't know I seen anything. Had I been older, I probably would have talked to him about it, but I was a pretty naive 16-year-old, so I just deleted his history. I check his history now from time to time though. Caught my son running a Google search for crap stain puss. I was beyond distraught. We are strictly a Bing family. Not my child, but I cleaned up a computer for my dad's coworker. It was her son's computer and I found several pictures of his escapades and some random pee. The most memorable was two dudes dressed as pterodactyls banging a chick in a forest. We used to get drunk and make people watch pterodactyl pee all the time. The best is that the guys get into it, forget they are supposed to be pterodactyls, and then suddenly remember and start flapping their wings again. Not a parent, but when I was 12, 10 years ago now, I had my own laptop and did the whole Google image search for most of my naked women boobs needs. But one night I got a pop-up saying you have a virus. Download this now if you want to stop IT, and dumb 12-year-old downloaded it in a panic. Woke my father up at like 2 AM. Brought him downstairs to try and fix my laptop, and just hearing him reading through my history to try and find what caused this virus. Just half asleep grunting sighing and then suddenly saying myfirstlesbian.com. That virus sure put some weird sites on there. I don't even know what that is. I mean, gee Willika's dad. I was helping my husband's 9-year-old cousin hack his Pokemon game when I accidentally opened the browser on his DS, which had some very hardcore P pages displayed. He quickly snatched his DS from me and hid for the rest of the family gathering in the bathroom, claiming he felt sick. Not as sick as I felt, kiddo. I doubt my son has anything close to mine. I spent a month taking pictures of the remains of successful suicide bombers and turning them into textures for games in 2004. I've kinda had the total opposite of this. I work in a phone shop and naturally get asked to fix the family's phones whenever they are acting up. Dad has a problem with his phone not connecting to the internet one day. Reset it and open the browser. Red Hot MILFs tab is still open. Proceeds to scrub hands until they bleed. I never gave a frick when I was a kid on my parents' computer. It'd stay typing in boobies, big boobies, boobs every day in the search engine. Half the time putting it up on the screen when my dad went to the bathroom and coming back in on him and acting surprised like he was the one looking at big boobies. Dang, you were establishing dominance hardcore. My mother found lesbian Kama Sutra in my history. She still maintains it was just a phase and I cannot be gay. My 11-year-old daughter was role-playing on Instagram. She had about 15 different accounts, all different Glee characters. There were some conversations that were getting a little heated, talking about making out and stuff. Luckily, I caught it before any clothes came off, but there was some under the shirt touching. But the saddest thing was that sometimes she was just switching between accounts and RPing with herself. I cried a lot that morning. Not a parent-child story, but semi-relevant. At a training course for professionals that included a few co-workers, the instructor opened his laptop which was set up on the projector. When he opened his browser, pounding buttholes was in the search bar. Only one co-worker and I seemed to notice. I had to step out in the hallway as I could not control my laughter. When I stepped back in, he's continuing to demonstrate the basic functionality of the website and ready to teach us to make our own accounts. Here, he suggests searching for this website create account. He realized what was in the search history and promptly deleted it. I think our mirth finally clicked then, and then he fainted onto the podium which created quite the gash on his forehead which led to the cancellation of the class. Godzilla KJP for sure. My wife and I kind of wished it was something normal like lesbians. My 6-year-old is into My Little Pony and Undertale stuff on YouTube. Every so often I'll have to stop a video where some neckbeard takes the subject to uncomfortable levels. I can explain sexuality, violence, etc. But how do you explain a grown man spending 15 minutes rendering Rainbow Dash's anus while listening to J-pop? How do you explain Son and Papyrus making out and holding bones with blushy faces and hearts? I've taken a very realistic approach towards parenting and telling my daughters the facts of life. Santa isn't real, dragons and unicorns are make-believe, but some crap on the internet is extremely difficult to explain. I watched my daughter watch Mickey Mouse toy unboxings yesterday. That isn't odd in of itself, but the people that make these videos are freaking scary. You only see their hands and hear their voices, but you know they are adults that are way into toddler toys. You have been visited by the Bipis Doggo of good old times. Comment drink well doggo to get infinite Bipis. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.